Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia. Today is a very special video. I'm participating in the Rejoice collab, and because of this collab I decided all my DIYs are going to have the phrase "He is risen" in them somewhere. At the end of this video I'm going to be sharing something very personal and special. My husband and I visited Israel a few years back and I wanted to share a few pictures with you. So if you want to see those, stick around. For now, let's get started on our projects. Get started in this project, I'm going to grab this Harvest Blessing sign from the Dollar Tree and give it 2 coats of black chalk paint. The egg boxes that I will be using, I got these when I got the Michael's $5 grab bag and I paid next to nothing for them, but they are originally $1.99, so if you need them I would recommend finding them on sale or with a coupon. For this project, I will be using only the lids from these boxes, and I'm going to give each lid 2 coats of linen white Rust-Oleum chalk paint and set aside to dry. To write "He is risen," I will be using these black stickers from the Dollar Tree, and I started with the longest word just to make sure that everything fit fine. And if you are going to be using a ruler, making sure that it's centered and every word in the same place, I highly recommend using a clear ruler. That way you can make sure that your lettering is centered. As you can see, I did put risen a little bit to the side. That is because I still wanted to put the little dot at the end. Now I'm just sealing the letters in with 1 layer of Mod Podge. Nothing softens up a black and white project like a little bit of a buffalo check ribbon. And I'm going to be making my favorite bow, which is a simple bow that I do use needle and thread on. Here I'm just measuring to make sure my loops are the same size. And here we go. I'm just putting a stitch in and just locking it in, and then all I'm doing is just bringing it together, and look at this. I'm just going around the center and tightening it up. Then when I'm done and my bow is nice and tight, I'm going to just go in the back and give it a few knots to make sure it's nice and secure, and that's it. Our little bow is done. After cutting all the tails evenly on an angle, I'm hot gluing the bows to the bottom of each of the egg, and then it's time to decorate. I wanted to give this project just a little bit of color. I grabbed a strand of the amaranthus flower or bushel and I just cut off pieces and hot glued them to the center of the bow. Today's collab is called Rejoice, and we wanted to share projects that show the true meaning of Easter. Participating in this collab is Crafty Lainey, Wendy from White Spirit Living, and Kate and Trish from Crafting Cousins. I will link everyone's channels down below, but for this collab, there will be a playlist in the description box. Just hit that and it will play all 4 videos one after another. Now, let's get back to the project. To get started, I printed out this template that says "He is risen." If you're interested and would like one, just email me. My email is in the description box below and I'll send you the template. So what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing some regular brown paint and watering it down really well, and you could add less or more, but I really wanted it kind of light because you want this to be a wash. And I did grab a sponge brush because it's the lightest on paper. I'm not a big fan of the sponge brushes, but for this technique, that is the only thing I use because it goes on soft and nice and it holds the water in the brush really nicely. Now I'm just drying it, and if I feel like it needs more, I'll add more, and that's what I'm doing right now. Now that my paper is nice and wet, I am going to use a piece of paper towel. This way, as I'm continuing to age the paper towel is going to start to absorb that moisture as I'm layering and drying to where I want it to be. I let my sign dry for about 20 minutes naturally without using my heat gun, And then I'm going back with a wet brush. And for this process, I do like to use the flat brush because I feel like you can control it a little bit more. And as you can see, I'm doing this freehand and I'm just basically drawing a circle. When I'm done with my circle, I just put a little line outside of the paper. That way it gives me kind of like a little starting point where to start ripping. And then I'm just going around and ripping, and it is so beautiful. It's such a natural effect. It looks aged and it's so simple. Using this fall sign from the Dollar Tree, I first removed the hanging jute cord, then I filled in the little holes with some spackle, and then gave it 2 coats of white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum. Now I'm going to dry brush it with brown a little bit, and my secret is to always use a napkin. So a little bit on the tip of your shabby brush, brush it against a napkin and then onto your canvas. Here, this was a little bit unexpected to myself because all of a sudden I saw myself doing a shiplap or little wooden boards as a background. So there you go. I'm just putting some lines with a flat brush and just playing around and bringing in the white and the brown as I saw fit. Once my canvas is nice and dry, I'm putting on 1 layer of Mod Podge, then putting on my sign and just putting a little bit of Mod Podge over the sign and around to attach it to the board. Using these gorgeous spring florals from the Dollar Tree, I am going to pick out 4 of these purple flowers, and then I'm just going to hot glue them towards the center of the top and the bottom with some greenery in front and in the back of them. In the center of the greenery, I am adding a little rose from the Dollar Tree on both sides, and then I added 3 of those little yellow flowers on each side of the rose. After I was done with the project, I realized it was a little bit off-centered. Using a box cutter, I did remove about 1/4 inch of my canvas on the left side and then repair that area on the side using some white paint and Mod Podge. For this project, I will be using this sign that I got at Michael's on 90% off after 4th of July sale, but you can use any sign that has that shadow box in the back of it. This sign had really pretty galvanized little pieces on it, so I did cover those with some painter's tape so I can paint around them because I wanted the original look to stay there. Now I'm going to give all the sides and the top of the sides a layer of black chalk paint. Using a pencil, I freehanded "He is risen" and I just wrote the lettering working from outside in to make sure everything is centered at the end of the day. Now I'm just using a Sharpie oil-based paint pen and I absolutely loved it. I did give it 2 coats just to make sure that it's nice and visible, and I absolutely loved how this sign turned out. Now I'm grabbing a foam square from the Dollar Tree, cutting it in half, and hot gluing it to the center of my piece. Next, I'm grabbing a 2.8-inch foam ball, cut in half, and hot glued that 1/2 in the middle, and then the second half, I'm cutting it off and laying it around that center half, just to kind of make it look like we have a hill. To make the 3 crosses, I'm just using sticks that I found in my front yard. Towards the top 1/3 section of my stick, I just give it a dollop of hot glue, and then using some jute cord, I bring those 2 pieces together and just keep on twisting in between until I feel like it's nice and secure, and then I'm hot gluing the ending of the jute cord in the back of the cross. Grabbing some green felt from the Dollar Tree, I'm just cutting off a piece and then I'm going to fit it onto and between the crosses. Basically, I want to cover all that foam with the greenery. So I just cut it into pieces. Really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exact because we are going to be covering that felt anyway. So just make sure it fits nicely around the crosses and tuck it in on the sides. After my green felt is hot glued in place, I am grabbing some moss and I'm hot gluing the moss all around and on top of that green felt. Next, I'm grabbing some bark, and this is once again from my front yard, and I'm just hot gluing a few pieces here and there, and then grabbing these rocks. These rocks are from the Dollar Tree. and then just hot gluing the rocks wherever I felt like it needed it. To complete this gorgeous project, I'm grabbing some baby breath and I'm going to be using them as little wildflowers and just cutting off the little white tips. I'm just hot gluing them here and there throughout my project. I think this turned out absolutely stunning, and I have to say it is one of my favorites.